Welcome to the Girl Dad Show.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Girl Dad Show. I am super stoked to have Trisha on the show today. Trisha, thank you so much for making some time.
I'm so excited to be here. This is a long time coming, I have to say.
It really is. It took quite a bit of effort for us to do this, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Trisha, let's jump right in. Tell the listeners what you do for a living.
Yeah, I would love to do that. You know, I will say it took me a long time to figure out what it was that I wanted to do in this business. So I'm a coach. And I know many of us call ourselves coaches in lots of different industries. But what I'm really, really good at is getting you from where you are today to where you want to be. And here's how that happens. The people that I love working with are female veterans who have transitioned out of the military and found themselves either building a business because they have a passion for it, or they're in a corporate space trying to be a good leader. Here's the key. We as veteran women led a specific way in the military, and we can't continue to lead 100% the way we led in the military in this new space that we're in. So where I come in is I typically will spend the first 90 days in that high stakes transition where they are in that new role or getting that business off the ground or getting them out of that stuck spot in their business to getting things moving again. It sometimes requires mindset work. It sometimes comes down to getting out of our own way and really pressing forward on what is it that we really want to get out of this business, and how do we lead the people that are going to be in our businesses or lead the people that are in the bigger business that I'm now a leader of. So there's a lot of work that happens there in the first 30 days. The next 60 days is really digging into delegation. How do we stop doing? Here's the problem with us military veterans. We try to do everything ourselves because it's just easier. Get out of the way. Let me do it. So we've got to get out of that mindset. And so talking about delegation, by the way, delegation is something we can learn. We may not have been born with it, so we can get better at it. And learning how to offload all of those things that we shouldn't be doing anymore and give that gift to others so that they can grow as leaders as well. And then that last 30 days that we spend together is really about stakeholders. How do you take what you've done or what you're doing and present it in a strategic way to those who need to see the work that you're doing? Because here's the other thing. Oftentimes, women and veterans don't tell people what they're doing. They expect people to see the results as they come. And I want people to know that visibility is not vanity. It's not. There's nothing vain about being strategic around the things that you're doing and showing off all of the things that you've done and the things that you will do. So that at its core is what I spend the first 90 days with my clients on. And if we decide that we want to have a longer engagement, then certainly that's available. But that's the core work that I do and really enjoy.
Oh, wow. It's so well packaged up and concise. I have like a million questions now. I know we've already talked quite a bit, so I didn't even realize the level of depth you put into your business and niche. That's amazing. So let me just start by asking some of the ones that are just like, I have to know. Walk me through your professional journey, because I need to know how you even got into the military. To be honest with you, I feel really bad. I didn't even know that. So yeah, walk me through this. How did you start there? Yeah.
Yeah, it's just an interesting story. Thanks for asking, because I don't get to tell this story very often. And I grew up in a small town in rural North Texas, if you want to call it that. And there weren't a whole lot of opportunities coming out of high school. I did get a small leadership scholarship, like leadership, who recognized me for being a leader. Okay, that sounds great. So I was afforded college for 2 years, and I was working 3 jobs to also afford the rest of, being alive as a 18, 19-year-old. And I decided that I needed to do something different, and it had to be something completely different. I thought, gosh, why don't I just check out the military? And I got out the Yellow Pages. I know I'm aging myself now. Yes, the Yellow Pages was actually a book that you flipped through.
Yeah.
So I opened up the Yellow Pages. I called the Air Force recruiter. No one answered, and I left a message. Yeah. So next I called the Navy recruiter, and he answered. and he had all the right things to say. And that's where the journey began. Eventually, once I did all of my testing and got accepted into the Navy, I ended up being a cryptologic technician maintenance, which is a CTM, going in and had a tech school and all of that. So that started my technical career and how I landed in the military. And I served 8 years in the United States Navy, and I spent a lot of time in Pensacola, Florida, for Orlando for boot camp, Pensacola for tech school, and then on to Okinawa, Japan was my first duty station at 19 years old. Could you imagine? And from there,
I love that. The rural Texan girl to Okinawa, Japan.
Right?
That's awesome.
Crazy.
Heck yeah.
And then eventually landed in Hawaii and spent my 3 years there. Yeah.
So cool. In Oahu?
Yeah.
Wow. That's quite a journey, actually. I mean, also, a shame on the Air Force there, huh? For not picking up their phone.
Right. This is why I had to tell a story, right?
I feel a little bit bad about calling that out, but yeah. So funny. That's awesome. So then they had all the right answers. And what was it that you were looking for at that stage in your early, I mean, because you were a teenager, right? And you just got the scholarship and you were working multiple jobs to it almost sounds like you were trying to maximize that scholarship. So you had to get 3 jobs.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there were still books to pay for. There were still other things that I needed to afford.
Living cost. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
It was all part of trying to grow up. So 18, 19 years old, you really don't know what next.
And it's not like people are paying you a ton of money at that stage either. It's not like you have valuable skill sets yet. So it's like,
oh no, waiting tables. I have to say, my husband and I say this all the time.
Yeah.
You need to do one of 2 things to become an adult. And that's serve in the military or serve others.
Yeah.
Like wait tables. I've done both.
Yeah. I love that. Yeah. And I will say I've also waited tables, and I actually agree with you and your husband. I think that it's a core skill everyone should do at least once.
Yes.
I mean, just the amount of empathy and understanding of how the world works and how great and crummy people can be. Yeah. And just understanding situations and the scope and breadth of points of views and perspective.
Yes.
Yeah. It's such a good one. Tell me about the military. Why the military?
It felt like the right thing to do from a structure perspective. And I thought it would give me the things that were missing in my life. So growing up, my mom was single mostly. She was married and divorced multiple times. So we had a lot of shifting when I was growing up, and I was really looking for stability in my life. And I thought the military might be a good opportunity. And they also have the GI Bill at the time.
That's right.
Where I could earn money to finish what I started. And so those 2 things were really important to me. And I was ready also to get out of the small town that I lived in. There were no opportunities there. You know, even if I did graduate from college while I was still in rural North Texas, I don't know where I would have landed. I don't know what kind of job I would have had. I would still have to move. Yeah. And I thought, gosh, let's open up the possibilities. And so off I went against my mother's will. We didn't have, she was really, really upset. I'm an only child. Did I mention? I'm an only child.
That's awesome.
So my mom was not really happy with me that I was running away to the military, but she's very proud now.
Yeah, I bet.
That I was mature enough to embark on that kind of experience.
And then tell me about Japan and Hawaii. What was that kind of like that acclimation process, and what did you think about it, and what are your thoughts about it now?
Oh my gosh. So I was 20 years old when I landed in Okinawa, and it was culture shock. I had never been to another country. I had traveled a little bit, so I wasn't just in Texas my whole life. We had spent some time in California and some other places. But it was a culture shock.
Beyond California, for sure.
Yes. And there were also some very big social differences as a woman showing up in this country. Lots of things. 1, the military and being in the military in a foreign country. And 2, being a woman in a foreign country. It was very interesting. Driving was a whole nother thing. around, trying to get your driver's license, because we didn't have to drive, but we needed to get from where we lived to where we worked, because it wasn't all in the same place. Getting a driver's license as a woman in Okinawa was even a little more challenging. So it was very interesting. I'll tell you one funny story about being there. I rear-ended a police car.
Oh my God.
And I was alone in the car. And so there were 4 police people. There were 2 women in the back seat and 2 men in the front seat who got out to come shake their finger at me and tell me how bad I was because I rear-ended them. And I won't even tell you the circumstances behind it, because, of course, I feel like I'm right, but I'm probably not. So anyway, I was able to drive my car home. It wasn't like that big of an accident. It was a fender bender, but I had to go down to the police station several days later. And I didn't want to go alone, because I knew if I went alone that the repercussions were probably going to be tougher because I'm a woman. So I brought my then boyfriend, who is now my husband, with me to the police station, and they wouldn't even talk to me. They told him to take me home and punish me for rear-ending them.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's my story. Now, you have to understand that was back in...
I mean, even now, I will say in the culture, stereotypically
90s.
speaking, the gender roles are very, very defined. And it's a lot more rigid than the States.
Absolutely.
So,
last thing on Japan before we leave that topic is the facility that I worked in. We called it an elephant cage, has since been retired. And the elephant cage is a big antenna array with a building in the middle of it. So it was about a half a mile walk from the parking lot into the station that we were in. And it's really cool that it's since been retired and people are talking more about it, and you can read more about it. But that was a very fun and interesting place to be. And we still dream. We talk about it all the time. We want to go back to Okinawa on vacation.
It's awesome.
Maybe someday.
And it almost sounds like you got lesser. You were strategic about bringing your boyfriend, now husband, with you, because using the cultural norms, you were able to kind of bypass a lot of the actual repercussions. Good for you. I love it. That's like judo, right? Like using your opponent's systems and strengths to your advantage.
Sometimes you got to be smarter than the person you're standing in front of. So
I love that scrappiness. Talk to me about Hawaii, because I feel like you should have went to Hawaii before you went to Japan, because that would have been more of like a medium culture shock,
Yeah, Hawaii was amazing. It was the most beautiful place to live. And we were on the island of Oahu. We lived in Waiwa, which is closer to the North Shore than any place else. If you know the island at all, we could get to the North Shore in 30-40 minutes. So really, it was an amazing place to be. And from a culture perspective, it was a little tough. We then in Hawaii, we had a son who was also tow-headed. So he and I were blonde. My husband happens to be dark-headed. He has an Italian background. So even there, from a culture perspective, we had to bring him along so that we weren't the Howleys in the room. And that's not a dirty word. It's just what they called us, right? Because we're outsiders. We're not islanders. It was really interesting. It was not necessarily for me, because I didn't have any culture shock around it, but more for our son and growing up, when you're 2 or 3, 4 years old and you're automatically disqualified because you have blonde hair. Is a very interesting thing, right? Yeah,
and you're also unique. Like you're literally like different than everybody. Yeah.
And when we met people of other cultures that were in Hawaii, non-islanders, but from other cultures, not U.S., they loved his blonde. They wanted to touch him because it was good luck that he had this beautiful blonde hair.
So unique.
Yeah, it was very fun. And our son, I'm sure we're going to get around to that, but it totally grew up to be very cultured and ended up in the military too, believe it or not.
Oh, no way. I was going to ask you that. That's awesome. Thanks for sharing. That's so cool. Before I go to the questions about when you had your kid and during the military process, I do want to know how that even happened and then what your husband does as well too. But I'm just more curious about this statement, because I think it's really interesting how you can raise your kids to embrace the world if you put them in these situations, right? Because for me, I think my parents did a good job of moving us around. And when I was younger, I hated it because it was so transitionary, and I'd have to make new friends every other year with new schools and stuff. But I think it had a lot of influence in how I think about the world now, because I now live in the country of Texas. I live in I live in the small little country town in Texas now from California. And it's a very small population here. And you could say it's kind of rural in a way, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there's like 11 Asian people that live here, and it was really fun when I first moved here because I was super unique, and I've never been unique. And so I love it. You know what I mean? I walk into these rooms and I'm like, amazing. Yeah. I'm like, just like drink it all in, people.
Just
get in line. There's enough of me for everybody. Let's take it one at a time here, And I just like embrace the crap out of it. And I don't know if I ever would have perceived it that way if my parents hadn't exposed me to, so many different experiences with having to make friends and having to be open to different perspectives. So I think it's incredible that you did that.
And this all sounds so familiar, Young, because our son felt the same way. He hated it. It was like, I'm going to move again. And even after we got out of the military, I stayed in a little longer than my husband. We continued to move. We both of us got into corporate, and then we moved, and then we moved again, and then we moved again. And I really do think that gave our son a great base of learning how to make new friends. I know you don't want to. It sucks. Nobody likes that. It's hard.
It is hard.
You don't know how you don't know how you're going to go do that. But it helped him learn that skill. It helped him learn how to speak up in the room if you need something, or ask for help, or speak another language, for gosh sakes.
Yeah, that's cool. That's really cool. They say that it's actually good to teach kids multiple languages when they're younger because it opens up like neural pathways for more learning later. I don't know, but I'm terrible at teaching my kids Korean. I'd rather them learn Spanish, to be honest with you. Yeah, I'm more efficient, right? And you know me a little bit. I'm more efficiency based, and I'm like, how is that going to help you make money? I guess it could if you do business with Korea, but you're more likely to do business with Spanish speakers. So let's teach you Spanish.
Yeah. Well, you live in Texas too, and I think learning Spanish is something that we should do.
I agree.
Because there's a lot of business that can be done if you're bilingual.
Totally.
Spanish and English in Texas.
I completely agree. And so my thought process is, statistically speaking, you'll need Spanish a lot more than you'll need Korean to make money. So let's teach you.
Of course.
Let's go back to the whole story. So what made you have a kid while you were in the military? Is that normal, or is that what's the thought process there?
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. So I will say probably not a planned family. Nice. It's one of those things that just happened. We were young parents and we figured it out. So there's that whole story, right?
Yeah,
as young parents, we were 20, and it was not, okay, let's plan a family. That's just not how it happened.
Yeah.
And so there are a lot of families that are made, planned or unplanned, in the military. People get married. There's a whole lot of boyfriend, girlfriend. They get married so that they can be stationed together, so that they're not apart. So there's a lot of that happening in building relationships. It doesn't always work out, but it happens. So yes, there's oftentimes all kinds of that happening inside the military. Now, I'm dating myself again because this is back in the 90s. It may have shifted quite a bit since then. But and so here we are, 20 years old. We've got a kiddo, and we just figured it out. We're like, all right, well, here we are. Now what? What's next? And so we're growing up while he's growing up, and we're all learning together. So it wasn't about, for me, just looking at generations. For us, we feel we would do it all over again. So if you're going to ask me that question, would I do it all over again exactly the same? Yes, I absolutely would. I think being young parents was hard, but it also gave us the capability of getting those skills.
Right.
And parenting translates into so many other things. It translates into business. It translates into building relationships with other people, like all of those things. And so in our early 20s, instead of us being out with our friends and doing all the things that 20-year-olds do, we were parenting.
Yeah.
And so we matured. And we were both mature to begin with, but we matured even faster, which made our son mature even faster. And by the way, he's an only child too.
Oh, wow. That's awesome. That's awesome. And did you mimic your mom's pang when he decided to join the military and leave?
No, I was much more open about it.
Yeah.
However, it was a big surprise. That's a whole story. And we supported it. He was talking to 2 recruiters. This was in 2009. We preferred, for those who keep up with what's going on in the world in the military, 2009 was not a good time to be in any other service besides the Coast Guard because
Yeah.
the Coast Guard kept him home,
Yeah.
or at least on our land and not
On
foreign
land.
land,
That's
which
right. Yep.
was great, at least in the beginning. And so we helped him get in because he was 17 when he graduated from high school. So we had to sign for him to get into the military at
Wow.
17.
Wow. 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 'Cause he was younger for his class.
Yeah, he started school when he was 4.
Wow.
We were in Hawaii.
Yeah.
I know. So many things that you don't know.
Yeah, that's so cool. That's actually really cool. For whatever it's worth, I was the same. So
Okay.
I also graduated high school at 17. Yeah, and it was really
there's so
awkward
many-
and uncomfortable. Yeah, but
Yeah.
in hindsight, I'm like, I love it. I'm glad my dad made that decision because I was at the cusp, and I could have been, like half a year and a half older than everybody else, or I could have been a year younger than everybody else. And he's like, get him to work faster, and that was his joke. And I don't think it was a joke now that I'm older. I actually think that he was actually saying get him to work faster.
Get this finished. Get to
Yeah,
work.
get him out here. So but I do know that is an interesting also thing to grow up with, that kind of like it's another further aspect of being unique,
Yeah, it is.
younger. Yep. But that's really cool. So you signed for him because he was too young to join himself, so you had to give him the authority to do it. I have to ask, what branch did he choose?
Coast Guard.
He did. Okay, cool, awesome.
Yeah, and we were very proud of that. And by the way, it's much harder to get into the Coast Guard than any of the other services because it's smaller, and they have different qualifiers for people getting in. So it was, it might have been a stretch for someone who just made a decision 2 weeks before they decided to, talk to a recruiter. But for him, it was perfect for him. Listen. We all know if he had gone to college and we had paid for him to go to college, that we wouldn't have the success stories about him that we have right now. It turned out completely different because he was bored with school.
Yeah.
It wasn't hard for him. It was too easy, high school, and he was ready for something else. And college wasn't it. He was just not ready for it.
I feel like there's a lot of benefit in putting in these kind of structures as you're trying to figure yourself out. And I think that I wish I had more of that when I was in my 20s instead of flailing around starting and failing businesses, because I think it was beneficial for me. But I wonder if my kids will do better with structure, because I will tell you, like, I don't know if I'd be open to them joining the military as well, because I've now worked with so many people that are veterans that are just incredible operators. They have this innate process and systems building mindset that's like so powerful in business. But I will say also the same thing in sports. Like people that are athletes or have gone through rigorous competitive sports are also similar in business and valuable in life. And I just don't know anything about sports. And so I know very little about it, but my wife does. And she loves sports. So she influences the kids to be athletic, and I influence them to be musicians. And what's been really fascinating to watch is them learning these critical skills that I think I never learned because I just never did it. I never did the military or sports, but like teamwork, communication, process, like practice, it's like rigor, and like, I'm like, wait, these are the things that I want them to learn in business. And I'm like, I could just do it by making them join soccer. It's just like such a great epiphany for me. But I think that it's really powerful because we lose so much time trying to figure out who we are in the 20s and 30s.
I agree.
And I think it's really important that you find ways to leverage that. Sports and military for me are 2 things that I have found over the last 5 years that are really, really powerful for that. So sorry, I just got on a tangent there. I apologize. I lost my train of thought.
I love it.
So you guys had the military experience. What made you leave the military?
I believe this is the way I saw the military: is you either love it and you stay in it and you retire from it because it becomes part of your life, or you get what you need and you move on to the next challenge. And for me, it was time to move on to the next challenge, which was corporate America. I had learned everything that I wanted and needed from the military. I had earned my GI Bill, which is, and we had started using some of that money while we were still in the military. And it was just time. It was time for the next challenge. I love the military, but there are also things about it that are very restrictive. Where are you
That's
going to
right.
go next? You don't always get to decide. How
Yeah.
are you going to get there? Who's going to get to come with you? Are you going to go on unaccompanied duty, or are you going to go with your family? Are you going
Yeah.
to get deployed? Are they going to put you on a ship? All of those unknowns were uncomfortable to me. So the next challenge was having more control.
Cool. I
Having more
like that.
control.
That's awesome. And then if I can be so forward, do you know what your next challenge is now that you did the corporate thing? Is this your next challenge, doing your business and executive coaching?
I'm 10 years into this space that I'm
Yeah.
in, and I will tell you there's been a lot of shifting and changing even in this coaching space for me to figure out. It's not figure out what I want to do, but what I enjoy. What do I really get joy out of, and who are the people that bring me joy? And that's where I'm at now for about the last 3 years of this 10-year journey that I've been on with coaching. Is I'm in a really happy spot right now, and I will tell you the next challenge is the next chapter in our lives. So my husband and I are still together 35 plus years later. And
Congratulations.
thank you. And we live in rural South Texas now, right on the coast. I can look out and
Nice.
see the canal right outside of my house, which leads to the intercoastal waterway. So
Oh,
we're
that's
right on the
awesome.
Gulf. We live in a small house here on this property, and we just cleared the 21 acres that we bought late last year, and we're going to start building our house. So that's the next challenge, is the next chapter in our lives together in building our house from the ground up.
Beautiful. That's amazing. I love that.
Yeah.
And what does your son think about what you do for a living now?
Mhm.
And what does your mom think about what you do for a living now?
Yeah. All right. We'll start with mom.
Okay.
Mom lives with us. She's my biggest fan. So,
Amazing.
yeah. So our son graduated from high school, left for the military in 2010. Graduated from high school in 9, signed up, left for the military in 10. Mom came to live with us in 11. She's lived with us for that many years. And she's my biggest fan. She loves everything that I do. She probably loves and likes everything on social media that I have ever put
That's
out
awesome.
there.
That's awesome. That's better than my mom. I love it.
Loves it. Our son is very competitive, and he has always said that he wants to be just a little better than we are. So he sees what we're doing and he appreciates what we're doing, and he wants to be that much better. He wants to be
Wow.
that much better. And I love that. I think that's
Yeah.
amazing. So I'll tell you just a little bit more about his story. So he went into the military. He spent 6 years in the Coast Guard. He got out of the Coast Guard. He paid for, with his military earnings, paid to go to University of Houston, graduated, got a job, moved to Denver, loves the job that he's with, and he's actually finishing his MBA right now. So
Good
for a
for him.
kid that we had to struggle through high school, went into the military to do all of that on his own
Yeah.
is phenomenal. And we feel like really, really great parents. Like, we raised him right. We gave him the basics, the things that the foundation that he
Yeah.
needed in order to go and be an amazing adult. And he is very proud of what we do. And we're very proud of him.
Yeah.
And he's just going to continue to excel and get better than we are every day.
I actually love that too. I love that too, because I don't see anything weird about that at all. I actually think it's really great sentiment and mindset for my kid to have. I'm gonna talk to my kids about that. Yeah, that's a good.
This conversation was all worth it.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Because if you think about it, like, who else is gonna want that for you? Really? You know, I mean, other than your parents. Really, you know what I mean? Like, because I'll genuinely be happy about that. I would be so just enthralled and happy and exhilarated if my kid, I mean, whatever objective manner or subjective manner you mark that as success, but like, if they beat me or they were a better person than me, I'd be genuinely so happy about it. And I don't know anybody in the world that would feel that way about you, other than your you know what I mean?
Other than your parents.
Other than your parents. Yeah, that's so
exactly.
good. So good. That's very beautiful. Okay, so I kind of know what you want to do for your next chapter here as it relates to your personal and business. And then it sounds like you are very proud of the mom that you've become. And then now your multi-generational living is actually happening, which is also a lot of things I want to ask you about, because I'm really interested in this thing about building a compound and having multi-generational living. I want to be able to, if my kids would be interested, I would love it if they lived in these houses next to me. And that would be super cool for me. And I'd be very interested in that. So I'm curious, is that something that you're aiming for with your mom living with you and building this 21 acres? acres and
Yeah, it's been so it's happening for us right now. It's
Mhm,
not something that we planned, right?
mhm,
And I will say that at one point we were sandwiched when our son came back out of the military and was going to University of Houston. He lived with us.
mhm,
So we were sandwiched. We had our son living with us and my mom living with us,
mhm.
and we had them all in the same house. And it was amazing. I'm sure not for everyone
Nice.
all of the time, but it was
Yeah.
amazing to have everyone right there. And I love the idea of being able to care for your family, whether
Yeah.
it's your kids or your parents or your grandparents. When we moved, so our son, his name's Ty, when we moved out here, he had already gone on to do the things that he's doing in his grown up life. We brought mom with us. And as we build out this new property, we're going to continue to keep this property that we have here. The new property is about 6 miles away. So we
Mhm,
haven't talked about the compound yet, but we do have some thoughts and ideas around what that
mm.
property is going to entail for
So
us
cool.
and the things that we can do on it. And here's the other thing: when we moved down here from the suburbs, we gave up the big house where everybody would come and visit family, cousins.
Yeah.
My husband is the oldest of three, so he's got brothers and sisters and nephews and nieces and all of the things, to a smaller place where we can't invite people. So
Yeah.
the bigger place on the 20 acres is going to be the place where people can
Hub.
come and gather as a
Yeah.
family again. And that's always been really important to us.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, I love that so many of your things are systematically happening to you, and then you're adapting to it. It
Mhm.
shows like a story arc, where you're like constantly trying to push yourself to learn, and then you have something happen to you, and then you have to keep learning, and then
Mhm.
you're doing these things. That's incredible, incredible story arc, and I love that because I will tell you, I'm not like that. I'm incredibly planned out on everything I do. Yeah, but I think it's beautiful that we get to the same kind of like conclusion of just like fighting for happiness, fighting for learning, fighting for
Mhm.
growth, and fighting
Yeah.
for our family and what our values are. And so it's a really
Mhm.
fascinating to hear your story like this.
Thank you.
Yeah. Go ahead, say it. What are you going to say?
Well, so there's this whole piece that's
Yeah.
missing that we haven't talked about.
Yeah, please.
So I spent 10 years in corporate. I bought my first business in 2007, and
Wow.
I still own that business today. So we had our 18th anniversary.
Wow.
It's pet sitting and dog walking services
Oh, I
in
did
the
see that.
suburbs where we live.
Yeah.
Yeah. So again, another family type thing, right? Where I wanted to bring people in the community
Yeah.
to families who needed pet sitters. And
Yeah.
I love that business and it's been so much fun. So that was very strategic. That was my reason for leaving corporate. So
Mm.
I envy you because you have a plan and you're very strategic about the next thing. And I do have a lot of stories about things happening to me and adapting to them. But that was something that was very intentional for me. I bought that business specifically so I could leave corporate. So I bought the business in December of 2007. I quit my job, my real job, the job that was helping us pay the bills, in May of 2008. And
Wow.
if you remember what happened in
Oh
2008,
yeah.
you're probably like, that was your own. So my husband was still working, but that was my only way to contribute, was through
Yeah.
this business, this baby business that I was building. And
Yeah.
by the way, if you were in Texas in 2008 and you lived near the coast, you might remember a little storm called Ike.
Yeah.
Happened the same year.
Wow.
So talk about adversity in business
Yeah.
and just trudging through the mud and trying to figure out how are we going to make this thing successful when our first year was really, really
Tumultuous. Yeah.
hard.
Absolutely.
I believe that my background and all of the things that I've adapted to or
Yeah.
for led me to a space where I could be successful in that business. And I still love it because coaching happened to me as well, young. This was my husband's journey. He's like, this is the business that I want to go do this and I want to be in coaching. And when I saw what he was doing, I want some of that. Like,
Mm.
you're now serving those who are serving others. I
Yeah.
want to do that. And it has been a blessing. I
I
didn't
love
know I
that.
was going to be doing it, but here I am. Yeah.
That's beautiful. So that business was your passion business? Is that like when you looked at it, you're like, hey, I want to leave
Yeah.
corporate. I want to start a business as my next
Hmm.
adventure. And you
Hmm.
chose dog walking as an industry
Yeah.
and
I'm going to
channel.
go walk dogs. Why not? It sounds like fun.
Oh, it's
Right.
a great business. I love dogs. Yeah, they're the best. I mean, How can you not?
I know. Two-thirds of every house in the United States has a pet.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a great TAM. Great
Mhm.
addressable market for sure. Very strategic. I love it. I
Yeah.
love it. Okay. So I do want to make sure I get some rapid fire questions in that I like to have some symmetry to my show. So I'm going to ask you some questions that I like to ask everybody. One piece of advice you have for other parents or soon to be parents based on all the things that you've learned in your life.
The very first thing that pops in my mind is don't be their friend, be their parent. They need you to show them the way, not be their friend. They need someone to emulate, not be their friend. Be their parent first. If you want to be their friend later, that's great. But you need to be a parent first and not their friend so that they have someone that they can emulate and they understand what the guardrails are when it comes to growing up. Otherwise, you've got somebody who thinks everyone's their friend and they can do anything they want. That's my biggest piece of advice is parent first, be friends later.
Powerful. I love it. That's super powerful. I feel like you're talking to me actually once you say that. The biggest pushover.
Well, we tease because my husband has always been the easy guy, especially when it comes to girls. We have lots of girls in our family.
Yeah.
He was hard on our son because he's a boy, but he's such a sucker for girls. So I get it.
I'm the worst. Yeah. My wife's like, what is wrong with you? She's like, I feel like I'm raising 3 kids. And I'm like, I just can't. Like it's terrible. I don't know what happened because I'm pretty hard edged in business, but they get me. They get me real good. So one thing that was very surprising that you learned about yourself after becoming
that I could.
Oh, nice. That's awesome.
We were young, right?
Yeah.
And it wasn't a planned family. It was, okay, this is what we're going to do. And here we are. And what is it going to look like on the other side? And I think whether you have a planned family or unplanned family, you still spend, if you're able to carry the baby, you still spend 9 months planning, what is this going to look like on the other side? And you still don't know. Right. You have no idea what's on the other side. And you know what? I was a really good mom. I was really, really good mom. That's awesome. I had the instincts. I just got goosebumps. I had the instincts to do everything that needed to be done when that baby came. I did.
I love it. I got goosebumps. That's awesome. That's great. Do you have a favorite book or show or something that you like to reference back to or you want to share with the group that's really influenced your life?
Oh my gosh. So is it okay if I slide into business? Because I do have a favorite business book and it's Atomic Habits. And I think that book, it's a heavy read, but there are so many small things in there that relate to or you can use in business. It's a business book, but you can also use them in life.
Yeah, absolutely.
It just takes one little thing. Little thing. If you just shift that one little thing, then you can start to build on it. It will make a difference in the end. So that's one of my faves is Atomic Habits.
It's a great book. Yeah. And I can't remember his name now. It's blanking on me, but I actually heard him speak. I went to a conference and he was the keynote speaker. It was really great. Yeah. It's cool.
Oh, I bet it was.
Yeah, the book is great too, but it was nice to hear him talk about it, in person. It was very powerful. Yeah, I love that book, by the way. Okay, so to bring us home, when you're not building your next home in kind of like the next stage of parenting and your coaching business, what do you do for fun? What are your downtime activities?
So first, it has to be outside.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
Outside. Yeah. I'll tell you one simple thing. I love just being barefoot in the grass. Like that's one of my favorite things on the planet. If I could step away from everything else that I was doing and just put my feet in the grass, I'm going to say it grounds me. And I mean that in more than one way, right? But I just love being able to feel nature. So what do? I love fishing. I love boating. I love going to the beach. And we have all of that right here. Those are the things that I love doing. So it is being outside.
Heck yeah.
And feeling grounded.
Yeah, my wife's big into that. She's always telling me to go ground myself, take my shoes off and go stand in the lawn and just like get some vitamin D. Yeah. It does feel good. I just need to do it more. I do recognize that there's a lot of power in it. I just like never seem to prioritize it for some reason. But when I do it, you're right. It's like very calming.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's interesting. I love that. This was great. I will tell you that this show for me is a journey for me to learn different perspectives and kind of just understand how people navigate business and parenting, and just keep exposing myself to new ways of thoughts. And I will say this is like hit the marker for me so much. So I can't appreciate you enough for being on the show and sharing your story. I feel wildly educated, and I just feel like my plate has just expanded in so many different points of views and ways of thinking. So thank you so much for spending some time.
Yeah, thank you for having me. And, I don't often get to be on the other side of the microphone, so I appreciate the opportunity to tell my story.
Oh, I love it. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, we should talk about your show real quick. Tell the listeners what your show is and what it's called.
Oh, I would love that. Yeah, thank you. And soon your episode is going to be coming out too, so thanks for being on. It is called Houston Business Radio, and I talk to people all over the United States, not just in Texas. It's focused for my business owners and leaders listenership. It's very holistic. It's not just about business. I love to talk about financial success. I love to talk about health and wellness and business and or family and relationships, because we need all of that in order to be great leaders. So it's diverse. It's meant for business owners and leaders, and it is just about having a good conversation with people who bring a story, a framework, a podcast, a book, a piece of information to shift the way you think today by just 1%. We're not solving the world's problems. We're just learning one new thing at a time.
That's awesome. Trisha, thank you so much. I look forward to continuing to build our relationship even outside of the show. And I can't thank you enough for being on the show today.
Thank you so much.
Talk soon.
Bye-bye.